Isa natin. Game. Green luntian. Ay, green luntian. Green na nga luntian. Green lang pala. Sa pa. Green. By Beck. Isa pa.
Kalma ka lang.
Kasi natatakot ako baka magkamali ako.
Eh, kaya nauunahan na.
Okay, go.
Relax lang.
Green. Story by Becky Bravo. There was once a quiet little town called Puokluntian, so named because it was surrounded by a thickly wooded forest from almost every side. In the distance rose a majestic green mountain, always wreathed in mist. The water coming from the brooks hidden within the trees was as clear as crystal, and the air was so cool and clean that it smelled of dew and damp green grass. It was a wonderful place to live. For a long time, the people of this little town lived undisturbed in their quiet little paradise, enjoying a simple life that required little else but clean air and water, good food, a roof over their heads, and the most valuable blessing of perfect health. If they had been left as they were, perhaps Puokluntian would still exist today as it did long ago. But it happened that a stranger came wandering into their quiet little town and brought with him the very last thing they needed, change. This stranger, a man who had lived in the city all his life, came visiting Puokluntian one summer day, and before the sun had even set over the mountain, he decided that he wanted to live there as well. What a blessedly peaceful place with such wonderfully fresh air and such crystal clear water. Who wouldn't want to live in such a paradise? And so, the fellow from the city soon managed to obtain his own piece of land and began to build his house. But he didn't want the same sort of small, rickety wooden houses in which the townsfolk lived. Houses which had been passed on to them by their fathers and their fathers' fathers before them. The man wanted a house just like the one he had in the city, one with all the modern comforts he couldn't possibly do without, and he could certainly do it with making it a little bigger and throwing in a few extra comforts here and there. On part of the land that was now his property, there stood a thicket of trees that skirted in the forest around Puokluntian. Now, the man from the city was not so keen on having trees so close to his house, for trees meant leaves, and leaves meant bugs and snakes, and he certainly didn't want them wandering anywhere near him. Absolutely not. So down came the trees, every single one, and in their place he put a manicured lawn, a large ornate fountain, and a driveway paved with stone. All the timber from the trees he cut down from his plot of land went into his cabinets, his floors, and a fancy dining table that could seat as many as 8. When everything was built to his liking, his house ended up 5 times higher than any upright structure in town, including the communal water tower. The man from the city was very pleased with what he had done. He got up every morning in his beautiful new home, greeted by a breathtaking view of the mountain. He filled his air lungs every day with crisp, clean air. Life here was slow, quiet, and tranquil, with not a single strain on one's time or peace of mind. What a beautiful, wonderful, healthy place to live in. He was just so very pleased that he just had to tell everyone he knew, and then some. He told his mother and father, and all his brothers and sisters. He told every one of his friends. He told all the people he worked with. He told his dentist, his lawyer, his doctor, and his barber, the lady at the bakery, the clerks at the grocery store, parking attendants, policemen, street hawkers, elderly ladies crossing the street, people walking by their dogs, children on their way home from school, and when he had told practically everyone about the wonderful place where he had built his house, he started inviting his friends and family to come and stay with him whenever it suited them. And so this fellow from the city began receiving visitors to his beautiful new house almost every single day. Sometimes they came singly, sometimes they came in pairs, sometimes they came in groups of 3 or more, and sometimes they came in big noisy crowds, eager to be greeted in the morning by a breathtaking view of the mountain, to fill their lungs every day with crisp, clean air and experience the slow, quiet, and tranquil life of Bokrantian. They all had such a wonderful time that they couldn't possibly keep it all themselves. They had to tell everyone they knew as well. And our man from the city, free-handed, welcoming fellow that he was generously offered the use of his house to his friends' friends and his friends' friends after that. You can imagine what happened next. Soon there were so many of the man's friends, his friends' friends, and his friends' friends coming to see Pokrantian that there wasn't enough room in the house for all of them to enjoy the town comfortably. After a lot of squeezing and making do with what space there was left, one of the many visitors who had enough of all the squeezing and jostling hit upon an idea. Why not build a house of his own there as well? Just as easily as the first man from the city secured his own piece of Puakantian, this next fellow got his hands on a piece of land and built an even larger house. Down came the trees again, of course, where they got in the way of the fancier driveway and the bigger lawn. Ala, matapos na tayo, ma!
Ito na
Sinira mo!